Thank everyone for coming this morning, taking your time out to do this, as well as the public. Thank y'all for coming. If you would do a roll call, please.
Matt Elliott,
Present.
Jon Draper,
Present.
Tal Rancourt, Pam Brewer, Jack Comley,
Present.
Thank you. So the purpose of our meeting today is to talk about our comprehensive plan review. Is that correct, Bert?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I presented you guys with some questions last meeting.
Right?
So this is going to be like a round table. Anybody's got questions, suggestions, and then we can make kind of recommendations. If you have any questions, we can answer them best we can or get you answers. This is for the Highland County comprehensive, what is it, comprehensive?
Okay. Well, let's just go through these recommended questions.
Yes.
If you want to.
So, but basically, let's
Right.
start with, I put the background of the code, the responsibility of the board. I like, when you get a chance, I'd like you to review them. And,
We'll do that first?
no, on your time, I want you to review them because I want to get you all involved in other things than just the regular meeting. I want to have conversations, have you guys maybe send me emails with questions and stuff, or meet in person one-on-one to answer questions. It's instead of the board just getting my recommendations of one time a month, I want you guys to get more involved and, make it more comprehensive between staff and the board so we can get a plan to get this utility up and moving.
Okay, well, let's start with the first recommended question here. Do we want to expand Lake Placid Regional Utility area boundaries? Pros and cons, let's hear them. Ms. Brewer.
These are recommendations from the original board that met for years and went through agony trying to set it up. So, if you look, it goes from the north to the south, taking in all the areas that the county currently has. So I don't see any sense in beating a dead horse. I mean, this is the area that they decided on finally, and until you guys service that area, I see no sense in changing it. That's my opinion.
Okay. So that brings me to how do we save the lakes for this money that we've gotten? We're going to have to do some sort of expansion to get our lakes cleaned up. Correct?
Correct.
That's I'm not for putting
Yeah.
sewer line to Spring Lake and one to Palmdale, but if we need to wrap it around a lake somewhere that we don't have it, maybe that's what we need to do.
So this is, Highlands County is trying to do their comprehensive plans and want to see if we want to expand, we want to stay the same. In my opinion, if you want to expand, as Matt was said, I'd like to start up the north, pick up the lakes maybe to the west a little bit, and the east of Lake June right there, pick up around that area and work our way south. As you can see right here, let's see, that's our current sewer system right now. So you can see how far we've expanded out so far with the sewer. You can leave the water on there too, Leanne, please.
And could you go down, if we're going to start at the north, can you just pull that down so we can see the north end of Lake June. There we go.
So you can see, this is where our water mains are, and the sewer stops short of the mains, water mains. You can see on the east side of Lake June, it doesn't look like there's that much development over there right now, or to the west, but I would, you know, if we're gonna expand, let's start at the north and move down, and not that much south, until development comes down there. I wouldn't change the size of the local parameters of what we have now, but thinking if you did want to expand, pick up by those lakes to the north at this time. Because you got to figure our main plant's going to be over on Smokes Road. You know, it's more probably efficient to pipe from around there to the new plant than running the lines all the way up 27 Old State Road 8 or, you know, Placid Lakes Road. So you know, we're not out at Catfish Creek, over there at Washington Boulevard, we're not out there. Lake Mirror, we're putting a force main to connect the old wastewater plant. So we're gonna have a force main down to Lake Drive East, and it's gonna connect to the one Camp and Conference just to put in to run to the plant. So those areas would be, you know, a focus point, maybe on development next. But as far as going south, can you pull that up south or make it a little bit?
Bert, are we running a water line from the Highway Park main back to Lake Drive?
Oh, no, it's the wastewater plant.
Okay, but are we doing water through there on Lake Mirror Drive?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Eventually, that would be a good plan. This force main is to decommission the south wastewater treatment plant. But then as you go down, you can see down a little more, please. There's not going to be that much development south of, we're north of Grassy Lake right there. South of that, there's, you know, Sun and Lakes is there. They have their own facilities. I would focus to the east and north, and a little bit on the west side for development. And as you develop that, because that'll give us connections, which gives us revenue, which we're short on, closer you are to the plant, we put the pipes in, and then we can add, if we develop a little farther from there, we have something to connect to. So it's like Legos. You're building something up and then expanding it with like tentacles. So it's totally up to you how you want your boundaries. If you want to leave them the same, that's fine. The growth of new sewer lines and water lines is, right now you depend on grants. Grants aren't guaranteed. But if we don't start getting connections to that new plant, the state's probably going to look pretty bad down on you, because we're a million gallon plant and we're still only treating 300,000 gallons a day. So we need to get extra connections so we can get revenue. And if we start getting revenue, we can kind of fund some of these projects little pieces at a time. And that will give us more connections, which will bring in more revenue. So, you know, the utility, you know, it's kind of like the heartbeat of a system. If you can expand it, it brings in customers and revenue, and then that helps. You know, Highland County's looking, you know, as we expand, they want us to, you know, bring in that property annex the property into the town. My opinion, I wouldn't ask for annexing anything out of town. You know, the cost of maintenance of the roads, garbage, and any other services, we're just serving water and sewer. You know, that's my opinion, but that's, you know, totally up to this board and the commission to figure that out. Why should we take on more responsibility? You know, if it was all the roads and everything were in perfect condition, maybe. But see, that takes funds too. And, you know, if you take those in, you might get a little more property, you might get highway taxes. With the water and sewer, you're just getting revenue. You don't have to, you know, supply extra services at higher cost for the town of Lake Placid, so.
Can you just show us the sewer lines on this map? Take off the water.
Yep. There you go. Take off the lift stations too, William. Oh, you got them off, okay. So this is showing gravity and force mains. Take off the gravity ones for right now, please. So this is where our force mains are at. We're stopping. You have gravity up in Tomoka, a couple of little force mains there for some stores and stuff. You can see that they're all the way down 27, Grassy Lake, up on the county road there. That's where our south plant's at. That's going to be decommissioned. We're going to go down Lake Mere Drive, come up Lake Drive East, up to the plant. So you can see all the areas that aren't serviced right now. You got Washington Boulevard over there, Placid Lakes, Catfish Creek, and then all the development in town, south of town there. That's Sylvan Shores out that way. Lake June Drive's not. There's a lot of area for potential growth and connections.
So can we put back up on
Water?
the gravity? No, just so we can see where there's
Yep.
available sewer.
Gravity's mostly in town and up Tomoka. Tomoka was a, private subdivision, and they put that in, and it went to maybe a lift station or right to the plant. In town, you have a mixture of force main and gravity. Out of town, there is no gravity, so it's all force main.
So on the north shore of Lake June, we don't have any sewer lines.
Correct. And the most economical way to install sewer in these places is the low-pressure sewer. Gravity is 3 times as much as the low pressure. Maintenance cost and everything else we've talked about. Well, not to have talked to you guys. The grinder pumps, right now, if we move forward, they're guaranteed warranties for 5 years. The lifespan on the pumps and control panels are 15 to 20. Gravity, every 20 years, you'll probably need to have them lined and the manholes relined because the hydrosulfuric acids will eat up the pipes unless you're using the DR19 or 25 or whatever for the sewer pipes, but your manholes will be eaten up unless you use the composite manholes, which are very expensive. So your cost, for maintenance, I think it'll be cheaper on the low pressure because that's all HDPE, no gases are hurting it. It's constant flow on it, so that you're not having to have jet trucks and shooting the gravity mains to keep them clean of grease and debris. They clean themselves. Every time a pump comes on, they clean themselves. So your biggest maintenance on them are going to be the lift stations, which will be, they'll have to be relined, and every 25 years, new pumps, panel upgrades. So there's always maintenance cost, and it's probably considerable because if you put gravity in, it has to go to a lift station. So you're going to have a lift station there anyways.
Wasn't there something around Lake Francis too? Can you pull it down a little again?
I believe we have water up there.
Just water up there, okay.
But like I said, that's another place to consider for the sewer. But I'd stick close to town and expand it from there. Lake June Drive, around Catfish Creek. Because if they hit Lake Francis, we're going to have to run a line down 27 to bring down.
Get connected from Cloverleaf back to Lake June Road, and then
It's possible. It's something we'd have to have designed. Yes, like I said, we do Lake June Road out to that area. It's possible to bring it down and connect there.
are we taking sewer to the new Dollar General up there?
What's that?
It's the Dollar General up there, is it getting sewer?
Yeah, that's when we go back to force main, you'll see that little line up there. That's the little force main they have shooting back. So, like I said, there's possibilities everywhere, but you want to go with the low-hanging fruit with some kind of a sewer line close so we can connect to that. As I said, the more connections we can do, we can take small projects, maybe, 500 foot, 1,000 foot at a time, and just keep growing. It's like I said, you depend on these grants. They're not guaranteed, and you might not get one for 3 to 5 years sometimes. So,
You said there is a force main to the Dollar General? I'm not seeing it there. Huh?
isn't there a force main there, Leanne?
No, I think that one's sewer, or not sewer, that one's water. It was large enough to,
Okay, my mistake. So it's just water there.
It's just water to there,
So they have
okay.
septic there.
And that's as far north as we go with the water, right?
Correct, yes.
So where does Lake Francis get its water from?
They're getting water now, because we just had a main break up there, a month ago.
Maybe put the water lines back on. Give it a second.
You
Okay.
can see it right there, it's coming up,
Oh, cloverleaf, that 12-inch line, okay.
yep, and it feeds up that way. So, if we get down to Lake June, we can always run a sewer up that way. That would be
So ideally, our new sewer lines need to run
yes,
parallel with our existing water lines.
that's where I'd start, that way, because once water, that's how you meter the wastewater, it's based on your water meter usage.
can I just ask a clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
Pam Pinterest. Did Bert say that your recommendation would be to put in expand the sewer system but not annex in the properties because you didn't want to take over the maintenance of the roads?
That's just from the utility opinion.
Okay, so that's what y'all are be discussing, but I would think that would be the key part of central sewer and water is if you get that, then you get your annex into town. I mean, you can have different hats on. You can have your utilities commission hat on, you can have so-and-so, but if you're looking at the broader perspective, and I know Kevin in the past has said utilities isn't for revenue generating. It's not the purpose, you don't make money off utilities, put it into general revenue.
No.
And I'm not suggesting that. However, annexing properties into y'all have 2,600 residents. I know the packet said less than that, but that was a couple years ago. You don't have the residents to support all the amenities, all the infrastructure that you're going to need. I would think that's a part of the policy, and I think the Lake Placid Regional Plan, the actual plan states, if you're getting central sewer, if you're getting services, you will annex into the town.
Like I said, that's the utility opinion, that
Right.
annexing is the administration and the commission.
Right, and so I'm just saying, if the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the 2050 year comp plan amendments, which the county is undergoing now, which we'll have done in the fall. I think Lake Placid is for January 2026. A part of that will be the Lake Placid Regional Plan. The utilities portion of it is in there. It was in the P&Z meeting last week. So this is a part of the discussion. And if you're going to say you don't have to annex in, but you can, if you're in our service area, you can have central sewer and water, then you're going to have to change the Lake Placid Regional Plan.
No, we're going to follow anybody's suggestion, just for informational, as a roundtable. My opinion is,
Don't.
I don't feel we have to,
Okay.
We're just providing a service to anybody within the Luprac area.
Right, because your job would be to cash flow.
Mine is to have connections so I can maintain the system.
Right.
We're
So,
not here for profit, we're not trying to make revenue. We're
Right.
just trying to establish the utility budget so we can have 3-month buffers in there to pay all the bills and equipment. If something, tornado or hurricane came in, or that's what happened out there on the coast. So we don't have that right now. We need to build, and the only way we're going to be able to build that up is by connections.
so that may be a short-term and long-term type goals. Short-term, stabilized utility budget
But that's
revenue.
that's all-
Long-term, I'm looking at Joy, you want, as a town council member, you want to increase the tax base.
No, yeah, exactly.
Right, so, but
that's totally-
short-term, you got a cash flow. You're gonna be
Right.
sitting on 1 million gallons a day wastewater treatment plant.
Correct.
You've gotta have customers for that plant.
Correct.
So that's what your goal is, and I get it.
So-
Thank you for letting me, I talked longer than I meant
So-
to. I
so-
just wanted to know.
So our goal is, as a utility, is to expand to compensate for that $40 million plant we're building.
Right,
Because right now, as we sit, we're still only gonna treat 300,000 gallons a
know.
day. So we're gonna have a plant sitting there, you know, beautiful, ready to go, do some treatment, and we don't have the connection.
right.
So,
Thank you, sorry.
no, thank you.
Is the, talking about possibly increasing services to the lakes, to the north of Lake June? You were talking, right?
Like I said, I'm just looking for,
Yeah, well, no,
we have water, and wherever we have water, like Lake Francis, I'd love to expand up to there.
Right.
And anything around the lake, I'd like to expand to, so we can get
Okay.
rid of some of the septic tanks.
yeah, okay.
More septic tanks we get rid of, we're gonna start cleaning these lakes up.
My question was, along part of the route that line would run will be the force main from Tomoka to the wastewater treatment plant.
No, because it'd run, possibly, if we make the connection to Lake June, it'll run down Lake June and then down to the new plant. We're not connecting
Okay,
anything, we're
so
not connecting anything.
It
to
would
the
be a
old plant.
completely separate line. Well, my-
Hopefully, within a couple of years, if we get the grant, the Tomoka plant will be taken offline. So our goal is to get everything onto the new plant.
Right, but, so the lakes to the north of Tomoka would, if and when you connect them, none of that sewage would flow through any portion of the force main that's going to be picking up Tomoka. Is that
Yes.
correct?
So it'll be probably picking up Lake June Road, Tomoka, coming down, what's that, County Road? 17, down to the plant.
Okay, well then my question is, the small portion of the force main from Tomoka Heights that might wind up picking up some of the sewage from the lakes north of there, is that, as it's presently designed, is that
No, it's
large
not.
enough to pick up?
Nothing's been designed for up there.
Nothing for Tomoka?
No, Tomoka is the new lift station connecting to the new plant. So we're eliminating the lift station at Tomoka.
Yeah, but you have to run a new line from there to the,
That has been designed.
and is that, I thought you said that a portion of that would ultimately be picking up the sewerage from these lakes further north.
If they were connected to it.
Yeah, okay, I realize they're not
As of
connected to
right
it now.
now,
My question is, let's call it the southern portion of the force main from Tomoka Heights, right?
Okay.
Some portion of which might pick up these lakes in
Yes.
the future, right?
Yes.
As it's presently designed, is that large enough to pick them up?
I believe it's been partially designed, but nothing 100%. So, like, for Lake June Road, I've seen some designs on that, but they're not 100% yet.
But from Tomoka to the new plant, there's not a line, right, correct?
No, there's not.
That has been designed, but
Okay.
we have to go out for a grant for that one.
I'm sorry, you say it has been designed or
It
has not?
has been designed,
designed,
and we
okay.
have to go out for a grant.
So
There's no
future
money
stuff
for it.
needs to terminate at the site now, not at the Tomoka site, is what you're saying, right?
Right, so
Yes.
when we put a lift station at the Tomoka plant, that will, and decommission it, all the flows from Tomoka will come through that new lift station to the new plant.
Okay, but if the ultimate scheme is to pick up those lakes north of there, shouldn't a portion of that line be maybe increased in size so that it could pick up them in the future? As opposed to having running two lines parallel to one another or whatnot?
Right. Well, with the force main, I don't recall what the size of the pipe is. There's not that many homes up there. I'm sure the pipe has been designed for a little expansion. I don't think it'll have to be increased in the future.
Okay.
But that's all I have to, that's what we're trying to figure out. And then we have, have it looked at an engineering company and, get an evaluation on it, so.
Okay, well, I think it's a good, your idea of starting at the north and working down, I think that's a good idea.
Well, the way I'm thinking about it, that's your most populated area right now. And because it's populated, it has the septics. So if we can start in the high density area and eliminating them, then now we're going to start improving the lake conditions. It's a long road. We got to change utility codes and everything else, mandates, everything else. But it's going to be an uphill battle. But once we get to that point, which I'm going to need your guys' help on, I think we'll be fine. We'll be able to be stable as a utility, and we'll have customers. The plant will be operating with still reserves. But then as we develop other areas, all those development fees would be going into a fund for an expansion of the plant if we have, great development. So it's a pyramid, and we just got to start building the blocks on the bottom, and that's the heavy ones, So.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, if we were going to expand, I'd say maybe out to the northern lakes this way. But if you want to leave it the same, that's fine with me too. So, or do you want to go smaller? Do you want to decrease the size? As Pam was saying, you guys went over this and over this and over this and try to figure it out. It's a set, nothing's set in stone because the county's asking us what we want to do. So, I'm just looking for your opinions and thoughts. That's why we're trying to, that 3 questions are probably the one question, just different variables of it. So I just want to get your opinions on what you think. Pam's saying, why change it? That's what you fought to get, so.
I think the feeling of this board is we want to take care of what we have now before we open up any new cans of worms.
Right.
But if there's hot spots around the lakes or whatever, we need to address those.
Okay.
Is that pretty much
Yes.
the consensus? Yes, Pam. Get to you next.
Pam Fentress. I wasn't really saying that, Bert. I'm just saying you're talking about going to Lake Francis, which is an impaired body water, so that's good. Y'all, the town limit, I know we're discussing annexing or not. That's nowhere in your business plan of anything I've ever seen. Think about when the Lake June Point residents heard about Central Sewer, or Placid Lakes people heard about it. Lake Francis, that area hasn't been on anybody's radar. And all of a sudden, and y'all voted before, over the years, what areas, Lake Pearl, Lake Serena, or Lake Mare Drive, then the town council following week, Southtown, and so. My point being, what a shock it's going to be if your recommendation out of this committee, and then if you go to the joint meeting with LPA, town council, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're going to go to Lake Francis. I understand your reasoning. You've got to start somewhere and move. But in your original packet, this is from December 2023. This is a $40 million DEP grant, and you had different project areas, 10 or 11 project areas. Lake Francis isn't on the map. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to completely go to Lake Clay, go to somewhere, I don't know. Lake Francis is needed for the water quality. I mean, I'm not saying that part of it, but if you're not going to get the tax revenue from them being annexed in, I don't understand. And then think about that process, how long it's going to take for y'all to explain it to the Lake Francis people. You're going to have a water and sewer bill. They have water now.
Yep.
From 20, 30 years ago, and there was issue with agriculture, citrus, nitrates in the groundwater. That's why DEP, that's why those water lines are there. But all of a sudden, for them to say, that's where we're gonna jump to, and you get central sewer.
Well, I think we were just talking about it because Bert said we would go north, so I just wanted to go to the
Right.
furthest
But
north.
if north is Lake Francis.
No, we're not, we're trying to, Highland County is asking if we want to expand, so we're trying to get them an answer. We might want to say we want to decrease, it, we just want to stay the same. This is for their comprehensive plan.
No, yeah.
So this is nothing set in stone for us saying that we're going to go up there. I'm just trying to get their opinion. If we do expand, we might as well pick up places that we're serving water to now. So-
Which I
No, we're already up there. But if the board here says, no, let's stay the same, then we can let Highlands County. No, we do not want to expand. They're trying to, because we're a regional utility, see if we can get closer to Sebring and Sebring coming down. In my opinion, as Matt was saying, we just need to take care of what we got now. But if we do, I'd rather go up towards the lakes and try to get rid of the septic tanks, and then going south, and it's, there's nothing there. There are lakes down there, but most of it's agriculture, and that's probably where the development would be. So I'm just trying to get an understanding from the board here, what's their opinion, and I think we're all probably leaning close to leaving it the same with the option, we can always not expand the system, but we can always do our development going south, but I'd like to start up in the north end.
Okay. But like on the county's 2050 year comp plan amendment, the maps, utility service maps, Avon shows Avon Park, Sebring, Lake Placid. For the Lake Placid utility service area, it mirrors the Lake Placid regional plan.
But they were asking us in our meetings,
Yeah.
would we like to expand? So I'm just trying to get those answers today.
Like go up to Lake Josephine, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Really expand.
But it's sounding in our conversation, I think we just want to stay the same. We don't want to take on more until we take care of what we have. And then we could always probably revisit this with Highland County down the road, saying, okay, we've got our area contained, we got our services out to everybody in our local area, Loop Rec area. Now we're considering maybe expanding, maybe north or south.
Thank you.
No, this is just a discussion, Pam. I'm just trying to get, their view on it and everything. This has nothing to do with set in stone or anything. Highland Counties is asking us a couple questions, and I'm just trying to get their opinions, and then we'll make a recommendation. And, Jack saying, Matt and Pam saying, probably stay the same. And John's probably saying the same thing. So we'll give it to Charlotte. Charlotte we'll give the recommendations to the commission, and Charlotte will relay them to Highland County. We're happy what we're doing right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is just a discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
May I? Oh, go ahead.
Let her go. Then.
While she's coming up here, I think the point, though, to be remembered is that if we deviate from the areas that were identified in the $40 million plan, we need to communicate way ahead of time, because that was part of the brouhaha when the $40 million plan was, I don't want to say foisted, but there was no communications, no heads up, and then when it came
Right.
to light, everybody was
Right.
mad because nobody knew anything about it. So in the future, we've got to make sure,
Right.
if we deviate,
Yeah, I think it was
but-
just for discussion.
But the Highland County's plan, comprehensive plan, they're just trying to see if,
Yeah.
in the future,
this,
not now.
yeah, this comment is aside from the plan. It's just a,
Exactly.
put it in the back of your mind that,
So as we move forward as a group, we're going to focus on those projects that were in the $40 million grant. There is some room for expansion, but we're going to focus on septic to sewer and get those out of the way. And if we do get some development, we have that, the development charges will go into an account for further expansion of the plant. They don't go to the utility. Only if we get connections on it, that'll go for our operations. So, but like I said, this is just a discussion to answer Highland County's questions. So observing, I think everybody's saying we stay the same. So, it was three questions for one. What size do you want to be? So-
Okay.
So Is that what consensus is? Everybody says we stay the same?
I know, I'm still taking let's see what else we have to say.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Good morning, Marlene Barger, Lake June Point. So I appreciate having a thinking session, which is what I think I understand here.
Yes.
But the question that I have, what is the town and the county and the state doing? Part of what Lake Placid is doing is under the rubric of Save Our Lakes. And if we're talking about Save Our Lakes, we're going to be addressing some of the more significant areas. I've consistently had a concern about Lake June Road. Many of the homes there have septic systems that are 60 years old. They're 25 feet off the water. So if we start looking at priorities, that area is not within the town limits, but it is within the whole concept of Save Our Lakes. So the question is, what are we doing working with the town, the county, and the state to address the true priorities? And where we're going to put these, before we start addressing making people hook up who aren't damaging the lake, and address what we need for those who are, and are we putting in the lines that are large enough to handle the flow? Thank you.
That's kind of what I said, we need to identify the hot spots,
Exactly,
and that's where
yes.
they need to go.
And then,
If there's water aligned with it, for sure, put one.
right,
I would
and
say.
then what are you trying to do with working with the county and the state to get the kind of grants that you need to do the kind of job that needs to be done, rather than the town's going to go off and do this, somebody else is going to do that. My concern is having a big picture.
Right, and that's what we're trying to figure out.
That's what I think.
But the county has nothing to do with it because the county's not in the utility business no more. That's why they made us the local.
Well, then the county needs to make clear that they're giving you the authority
They
to
already-
decide.
They have. We have the authority. Our boundaries encompass, I believe, Lake June Drive. Am I correct? Yes. So that's the one, when we did decommission Tomoka, the line's coming down that way. We're going by Lake June, there was the community there, they have their lift station. That's going to be decommissioned and attached to ours. And then it's going to run back to the plant right there on Smoke. So
But if the county is not involved,
the county's
and the
not-
homes along Lake June Road are not part of the town,
Right.
is the county going to allow you to annex that into the town?
See, that's a discussion.
Yes, because it's the region, we're not the town, we're the
We're
regional.
not the town, we're just the
area.
utility. We service.
Well, I get that.
So
So
the
the
town-
responsibility for you is going to be expanded. So you can decide that all the homes along Lake June Road need to be hooked up, we need to have a septic system, then you will set the priorities to make that happen.
Correct.
And then
So, but
can
for
they
the-
then be incorporated into the town?
So that is a town commission decision, not utilities. We are just providing
Right.
a service.
But that's piecemeal, Mike.
Yes,
I get
but-
that,
but we
my
have to-
point is the piecemeal aspect of it.
Yeah,
If
but
the
we
county's
have
going to allow you to do that, then the county should allow you to annex it in.
But as
just-
grants come in, they're not guaranteed. So we have to, as we go along, we try to connect things that are close to our system already. That community over there, that is going to be one of our grants. So when we run the lifts, the force main to the new plant, we're going to come by there and pick up that lift station and get that decommissioned.
How far out on Lake June Road are you talking? Because if you're going all the way to the end of Lake June, that's quite a lot, which is
No,
what
no,
should happen.
I'm talking, what is it? Lake June Point? No, not Point.
Lake June Point is not the issue.
No. Let me see. What is that one? No, come down to County Road 17 for me. Yes, right there, Lake June Drive, Armwood, Jade, that's the force main is gonna come down County Road 17 to the plant, which is on Smoke. This area here has a lift station, which has homes on the lake. So we're gonna be getting rid of the lift station, on the community there. And as something we have to find out, if the town commission or council wants to mandate hookups, if we can't mandate hookups, we can't make people hook up. But with the state and grants, they're not gonna be giving out grants anymore if the town doesn't enforce mandatory hookups. So that's another discussion coming down the road.
Where is Lake June Road on there?
It's not Lake June Road, it's like Lake June
No, I'm
Drive.
talking Lake June Road.
Yes, so
That's all up in there.
That's up in there. So, as of right now, can you go back up? Let's see, so we're gonna decommission, Tomoka. It's gonna come down the county road. We can, if we get the money, and have mandatory hookups and run a line Lake June Road to the end of our water system. But we have to have people, if you run a pipe and no one's connected to it, it's just a pipe in the ground. So we're gonna have to come up with some kind of mandates, you know, with the commission, like a council that has to mandate this stuff. That's gonna have to be in some kind of utility code. Otherwise, you're just putting pipes in the ground and no one's hooking up because they don't want to. So that's just a
Okay,
waste of money.
thank you. I'm just saying, there's a big picture here that
Oh,
we need to
that's
be
what we're trying
addressing.
to figure out.
Annexing is usually the next step. I
Yeah.
think that's what you're looking
Okay,
for.
thanks.
I mean,
Thanks a lot.
it
But
happens.
that will fall on the commission to make those decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Barger.
Okay.
Yes.
So, or just looking for your recommendation on connections. I mean, not connections, but expansion, and it sounds like you guys are saying the same.
To me, it sounds like we have a lot of work to do in town with force mains.
Right.
But you're saying there's grant money for this kind of stuff, for tying these plants back to the decommissioned plants? That's
Okay.
already paid for?
We
Just hasn't
have
been
the
done?
money right now for the south plant to be decommissioned. The Main Street plant, which is they're gonna convert part of that in for the new plant. So that one's done. So we're applying for Tomoka,
Okay,
and that's our third plant that needs to be decommissioned.
okay.
So once those are all done, everything will be going to the new plant. And then after that, then we can start looking for grants for expansion. If we can, you know, if we get the authorization for mandatory connections, we can start applying for money for Lake June Road. That's gonna be the biggest push back. What I'm seeing right now is people are saying that we don't wanna disconnect or hook up, you know. Sebring, I was looking the other day, they have a mandate saying, okay, if sewer is in front of your house, you don't wanna hook up, that's fine, but you're paying a sewer fee until you hook up, you know, so.
You can't what, I'm sorry?
What's that, I'm sorry?
You can't what until you hook up?
You have to pay a water sewer fee to Sebring, even if you're not hooked up,
About like service availability type?
if the service is in front of your house. So, you know, eventually their septic's gonna fail and they're gonna have to hook up. You know, there has to be some way to justify putting these lines in the ground and using them. And if people don't wanna use them, why put them in the ground? Now you're trying to maintain something that's not being used, so.
Didn't you say that the state has passed a regulation that any new grants that are given out, whatever area it is, that those people have to hook up?
Okay, that's been with the state for a long time, but they left the enforcement up to the municipality. Now they're saying municipality has to enforce.
Okay.
So-
And with some reasonable time limit to hook up? I mean, six months or a year? Or
I believe it's a year,
Year.
365 days. So that's coming down the road, but. you know,
Okay, so
But
then...
if you don't want to take their grant money, you know, and do it on your own, then if the town doesn't want to mandate anything.
So then, if Lake June Road is added as a higher priority item, let's say that some of the other items, you wouldn't have to worry about the people hooking up. They'll have to hook up within a year or so.
Right, that's, if, you know, if the town mandates it, or if they get a grant to do it, it's mandated. So, you know,
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, we're going to have to get a grant. We don't have any money sitting around to do that project, right?
But like I was saying, is if we get some development, we get connections, as that fund builds, we can do small sections, you know, and just keep adding a piece, you know, when we get the funds. So, but the
Okay.
grants are the best, but you're not guaranteed grants. You
Yeah.
know, there's been said that, you know, okay, they gave us a $40 million plan. They're gonna give you grants. No, they're not, because you're not making hookups to it now.
Yeah,
So, you know, they want you to do this, but if you're not getting them connections to it, why are they gonna invest in you more? You know what I mean?
right, right.
So, you know, we have to show an effort that we're trying to, you know, comply with, you know, what our plans are, and which we are. We're applying for grants and stuff for decommissioning. You know, this is a long process.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it can be done. So, you know, it just, we just need to get a plan and start and stick with it. Like I said, my kind of idea is starting north and working south. So, you know, for next year's grants, we'll have to pick an area, and we'll discuss that, and where do we want to go? You know, if we get that grant for Tomoka, you know, we could say a section of Lake June Road for now. Or if we don't get that one, it might be the end of the year. We have to pick another area, you know, so.
So Bert, what we're saying is that if we go ahead and run a sewer line up there, we're forcing connection, we have to force connection.
If you take the grant,
And, yeah, and you'd have, then by virtue of that, you'd have to force annexation. So you're really putting a double whammy on it.
yeah, but like I said, that's up to town commission about the annex.
Yeah, I mean, we need to make sure that people understand that.
But as
We're
the utility-
forcing those two things.
Yes, I agree with you. But
So
as-
it's gonna be a burden on a lot of low-income folks.
Exactly. So, you know, as, I'm working on some grants right now, it's a 319 grant for connections. You know, you know, that'll help, you know, low income or stuff like that. So, we're trying to figure things out. But like I said, there's no guarantees we're gonna get that grant. There's no guarantees the size of the grant. And there's no really guarantees unless we have lines in the ground, so. So, you know, it's a vicious circle right now. We
Yeah, it
just
is.
need to, get together, let's try to get a plan, and, you know, focus on that. So,
Can we pull up our existing area now, what we have, so we can look at that again, so people can see
you
the
talking
edges?
about loop rack area?
The what?
The loop
The
rack?
loop rack area, yes.
There you go.
Everything is in the green, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't look like any of the Lake Clay there, then is it?
It's just part of Lake Clay.
Well, I mean, the
Yeah.
backside, which is a hot spot, and Sun and Lakes is also a
Right.
hot spot.
But, you know, down the road, if we don't expand, we could, or we could say now expand, pick up Lake Clay. But it's all what you want to do. Like I said, we don't know how long, you know, we go down Lake Clay Road a little ways up to the mobile home park there. But that's it. So we'd have to run more lines and everything else, so.
But we don't have to run lines immediately, we're talking about expanding our area, so
Right.
we
But
could.
like everybody's saying, let's try to take care of what we got now.
Right.
And, you know, we'd like to work on all the lakes, but all the lakes don't encompass in our area either, so.
Another question was, starting at the north, how is that going to, I mean, the lakes kind of flow north, so,
Right, well, my idea of saying north is where we have water already.
Okay.
Let's try to focus on the dense areas, because the water's already there, that's how we will bill for the sewage. Let's try to stick with them, complete those areas, because once they're completed, that will make expansion to the next area. There's pipes already in the ground, so now we don't have to run a pipe 3 miles, pipe's probably half mile away, and we can expand it that way, and just, it's just like a grid system, we just keep going off that way, working our way out to the edge of our system. It's like the old Lincoln logs, you know, you just keep snapping them together, so. But if it's closer, it's less expensive, you're not running 6 mile of main to pick up an area.
Right, I just don't want contamination from Sun and Lakes get into Lake
Yeah, but
Huntley and ended up and being measured in Lake Clay and then saying, oh, Lake Clay is the problem when it really flowed down there. You know what I mean?
right,
It's like taking a shower with your socks on.
right. So
How many connections does it take, additional connections does it take for you to balance your budget?
oh, a lot.
I mean, is this
I
going
don't
to do
have
it?
I don't have a number. Because basically, we're at what, 2,300 connections, water, Leanne? Somewhere in there. That's where we're at for water. Probably less than that for sewer. So we're running on 2,300 connections. In an area that size, it's not that many connections.
That's my concern, is that, you know,
Yes.
we're going to have, we aren't going to fix the cash flow situation, or are we going to fix the cash flow situation?
The cash flow situation is minimal, you know, you should have at least two to 3 months in reserves to run the utility in case of something catastrophic happens. We don't have that. When you look at that report I sent out, which I'll give you again, Florida Water came down and did an assessment of our water system. This is just, you already did the wastewater. The water system's here, and there is a suggested rate increase. There's graphs, if you don't go this way, you go that way. Take a look at that, and you can see where we're sitting. And this, like I said, this will be presented to you, to the board here next regular meeting. And then, on your recommendations, we're gonna take it to the council. Like I was speaking, this is the second part of the wastewater one. So this is the water side, and if we don't approve it, we won't be able to, they're not gonna recommend to not give us grants anymore. So that's the second part of that. But the third part of it is their suggested rate study.
And what's the town's proposed annexation map look like now?
I don't believe I have that, so that would probably be
Okay.
given to you guys at the,
Does that include Lake June Drive and like Smoke's office?
is it in that package?
It's not in that,
No, the Highland County one, you just, the 20,
to see what's already
30,
annexed. We can pull it off on the Highlands County GIS. I
yeah, but
think.
that map's not in that package you just gave me? You copied this morning?
I'm not really sure. Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah, there's
2030?
Yeah, there was a bunch of maps in there.
There's a bunch of maps, but we can pull the annexation map from
So we could,
Highlands County. Are you there?
yeah, that's the interact, yeah, there she goes.
There's your municipal boundary should come up. Yep, so there, that's your town limits right there.
But what's the proposed?
So there's, I'm not aware of a proposed yet. I know Highlands,
Okay.
just knowing what I just have heard is that Highlands County is looking at some of our enclaves. That's areas that we annexed and then should have been annexed. So they're enclaves, they're not contiguous. So their county's looking at that to say we need to clean that up. You shouldn't have enclaves.
Right, there,
So the way this, if you just want me to add this, the way the system works right now is when somebody opens a water account, a consent to annex is required. Once that property becomes contiguous, then we have the opportunity to, the town council can approve to annex that property into town. Under Mr. Williams, there was a lot of annexation going on. So he was reviewing that yearly, coming up with a plan for annex that would come to council, and that's how some properties got in the last, since I've been here since 2013. There hasn't been anything annexed since we annexed this north side, going all the way past where the Dollar General is. So as far as an ongoing plan now, I'm not sure. I think that's part of the exercise. I think all these questions are going to come to town council. They're coming to the LPA. You'll hear probably about that at the joint LUPRAC and LPA meeting. That's all I know about annexing. I hope that helps.
It's being examined, especially.
Like there's
It's,
little
it's being
spots.
examined, especially for the enclave, the little
Yeah.
niches.
There's like little spots you can see yellow in the town limits in the green area. That's the ones they're kind of focusing on for the town to annex at this time, I believe. They're like little spots that kind of got missed. You see it up there?
Make that bigger.
See the yellow?
I don't see yellow.
You see those,
So you see
Oh,
the
now I
little
see 'em.
white spot?
you see the white spots?
The green is
There's
the
my
town
house.
property, and then you have those white spots.
So they're talking about the, you
Those
know,
are enclaves.
enclaves, yeah. So you got saddlebags there, they're talking about all those little ones, and then along the lake.
Can I just add?
Sure.
Quick. So on those enclaves, you could see that where you have those the little white spots. Right now, for sanitation, you have our guys going to the town, and then you have Highlands County have to go through town to get to their,
Right.
they need to pick up the sanitation. So those enclaves are affecting, that's what county and Charlotte and
Yep.
everybody's discussing right now.
So what are they proposing to do with those enclaves? I didn't hear that.
I
Annex
think
them.
that's what's being discussed now. What are we doing with the enclaves?
Right.
And that alludes to what he was talking about, roads. That's the
Road
conversation in these
sanitation, yeah.
areas, wanting the town to take over the road maintenance for these.
So,
In
like
the
I said,
past, when we've annexed, we have not annexed the roads. Those roads still remain county roads.
but our, as a utility is, we're just supplying water and sewer. That's the administration's decision for annex, how they want to deal with it, what they do. It really doesn't affect us, you know, so.
Okay, so they're just enclaves, looks like. It's not something stuck way out somewhere we don't know about it. I'm just trying to,
Yeah, but, yeah, so that's the discussion they're having on
saying
that.
if the towns go into the west 14 miles or something, then
Right,
we
no,
probably need to
no.
extend our thing out that way, is what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
but it looks like all this is inside
A lot of it's within the, you know,
in the limits anyway.
the limits of Loop Rack, so.
And I think the utility, when they fill out that annexation, is in the LPRP location. So anything outside the LPRP, I mean, outside our water, regional water,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's no,
Okay.
So consensus on expansion or leave it the same? I believe it's all leave the same, right?
Yes, leave it the same.
Same.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
That's right. That'll be number 3 is what Jack's saying. Stay the same. So Jack, just because we increase the boundaries doesn't mean the city has to follow that with annexation.
Right.
It just allows us to, I'm just concerned about the Sylvan Shores and the Sun and Lakes. Those are hot spots. And if they're not in our area, then we can't get grants for it and stuff like that. Doesn't mean the city's going to go annex them, but
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we can't change the boundaries later on either. I
That's
think
right.
we all agree we've got more than enough to work on
this
in our
changes for
area
the comp
already.
plan, right, Pam?
This is for the, you know, our answer to Highland County Comp Plan. That's,
Right.
you know, if you guys say we want to stay the same, we're not looking for at this time to expand. That's basically the answer we're going to give them,
Okay.
possibly in the future. You know, we just want to give them some kind of answer. They're asking for an answer.
So at this time, keep it the same.
I think
until
so,
we
yeah.
Blend some of this stuff up.
Our plate is full already, I think.
Sure.
But we can always add
I'd
later on.
I'd add consideration of expansion in the future, you know.
Yeah,
Gonna add that?
yeah.
Okay, Jack's moved that we keep our Lake Placid utilities boundaries the same with future expansion as an option. Is there a second?
Chairman, we're in a workshop. There are no motions today. Let's look at a consensus of what your recommendation. Now, the recommendations will be official at your official meeting on the 3rd.
Okay.
So we
Well,
could
what
just,
can we
come back.
poll the board to see where we stand on this?
Yeah, you can get a
Just so it doesn't-
consensus. Just ask it what the
Okay.
consensus is of the board.
and then
All right.
next meeting will,
I'm sorry?
next meeting they will.
Yep.
So
All
at
right,
the
Pam needs to
LUPRAC
go, so I'm
meeting
letting her
on
talk a minute.
June 3rd,
Right.
we'll
What?
bring it back on the, so
Sure.
you're having the joint meeting with the LPA on June
Okay.
2nd, and then the 3rd is when it'll be brought back to you for your final recommendation to the
Okay.
town council.
Okay, yes, Pam?
Pam Pinterest. So Placid, a lot of discussion in the past has been on Placid Lakes, Catfish Creek Canal, hotspot. So with what y'all are talking about right now, so then so you would always completely drop Placid Lakes canals, because that's outside of the Lake Placid Regional Plan. It's outside of the Lake Placid Utility Service boundary area. I'm not saying what you should do, I'm just saying that's part of the discussion, as you're saying, we don't want to go pick up the rest of Lake Clay, or we don't want to do this, but yet y'all spend a lot of time talking about Placid Lakes, and it's outside of your service boundary area. It was included in DEP's $40 million grant as an area. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you're going to have to, not at this meeting, but that, just the big picture thinking, you need to kind of have that in the back of your heads too. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
So we're gonna,
Well, if we can't vote, then,
we have a thing and then we can get recommendations.
The chairman can say, get a consensus of of the board, of the commission. Just get a consensus.
we can get a consensus?
Yeah, you can get a
Okay.
consensus. It's just not a formal motion, and then you'll make your formal motion on June 3rd.
And that'll make it easier for the recommendation next meeting.
Okay. Do you agree with Jack?
I do.
Okay. I do not. Pam's abstaining? Do you agree with Jack?
I abstain, yes.
Okay.
And I'll fill out the paperwork.
That will be for the vote on June 3rd.
Right, if we vote on that, right. Okay. Let's read over the other questions here.
Yep, well then, we already covered the annexation of properties, you know, so. But it was just put out there just so we could give some input to the town manager and commission, what our thoughts are on that. I don't know if you agree with where I was going with that. We could kind of do a concession, you know, vote on that. I'd say no annexation for delivering water and service. That's my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. I'd like to know.
I guess, Mike, when are we going to make it mandatory to hook up?
That's,
Or mandatory to pay the bill? Not necessarily hook up, but,
that's a discussion. That would be a new utility ordinance. They'd have to pass town commission. You know, that's the next discussions after
Right.
we get all through this stuff. The pay rate, and then probably the following meetings, we can start talking about that, putting together some kind of updating utility ordinances.
because to me, if you say you have to hook up when your septic fails, they're going to milk that septic tank as long as they can, years. You know, it's not going to fix the problem now.
Right.
So how do y'all feel about,
Annexation?
okay, about annexation?
I don't think you want to force these people to annex.
Yeah. Like a-
Okay. What about forcing people to pay a sewer bill that are in the city, whether they have it or not,
well, yeah,
if they're getting water?
If they
That's-
don't have,
that's not-
it's a service, they don't have to pay
Yeah,
for.
so that'd be something we'd have to bring up in a utility ordinance.
I know, I'm not, I'm just,
Yeah,
this is
no, you're just asking.
our discussion, yeah.
No,
I'm
no.
not saying I'm for or against it, I'm just asking.
No, I'm just clarifying that. It's just,
And the annexation is in code right now, so it is an ordinance that would have to be taken out of code if you're not going to require a consent to annex at the time of getting water service. That's also
But
in
then,
the code.
then you're,
And it's in the comp plan.
Yeah.
It's actually in the 2030
But I'm just trying to get our opinion as a utility.
Yeah, but, you know, then you're responsible for all the roads and everything, you know.
Roads, sanitation.
And you guys got enough on your plates that, you know,
Well, I'm just letting you know what's in.
yeah.
but
Yeah.
That would have to be taken out for council, and we'd have to go through that extra.
I'm just asking, if there's a sewer line in front of your home, should you pay sewer?
You should have paid something when you got your permit to put aside for somebody running a sewer line in front of your place. And if you paid for that, and you still have a septic tank that works, that passes inspections, that's been pumped, then no.
You shouldn't? Okay.
You're asking people to do too much. You've got to make it so that it's fair, that, you're not putting these people that are on fixed incomes into a position where they have to sell their homes. That's...
Kinda like how property tax works, right?
You can get the money. There's other ways you can get the money.
Oh, he's just asking.
I'm just asking, like property tax
That's not
works.
even my question.
You don't have kids in
He's
school,
just-
but you pay it.
He's just giving you your opinion, that's all.
And they know that, and they've been used to that, but they aren't used to a sewer bill. And as long as they have a septic tank that works, of course, when it fails, then they're going to have to.
Mm-hmm.
But why force them into before they?
Just asking. What do you gentlemen think?
Yeah, I don't think they're tested, to tell you the truth. So you don't really know whether they work or not, from my perspective,
Right.
unless the toilet doesn't flush. But you still don't know what it's doing to the water quality around it. So there's an issue there, and I don't really want to debate that issue.
And our ground percolates so well that, you can have septic problems and it not be a problem to the homeowner, you know what I mean?
Yes, and I don't think that they take that into account enough, but it should be taken into account where you live, what kind of soil you have. You shouldn't just do a blanket, everybody has to do this.
Agreed.
What are your thoughts? Should you have to hook up if your line runs in front of your home? Whether you
There's
need
no
it or
sense
not?
of putting the lines in if the people don't have to hook up.
I'm saying the line's already in front of your house.
Aren't?
Are,
That's
like
what I'm
right
saying.
now.
Yeah.
If it's available, but you're just not using it.
Yes,
Should
you
you
should
be
have
paying?
to hook up with some, a year's
I
time.
understand when you hook up, definitely you pay, but I'm saying before you hook up. Let's say you have a good septic tank, you have a line in front of your house. Should you be paying?
No, you shouldn't be paying for but there should be a time limit where you have to hook up.
They are now. If you're in town and there's a line in front of your house or business and you don't hook up, you pay a service availability fee now.
Okay, that's what I mean.
That's
Okay.
being done right now.
So it's being done now. He says it's being done now.
Right.
The service availability
Isn't
fee,
that right, Eva?
they pay.
That's,
I thought so too.
I know it's in code, but I'm not sure, are we
I think it's
enforcing?
just for new construction.
I think there's some businesses in town that are paying I know there,
Well, there
I've been
might be
told.
some kind of service fee, yeah,
There is a service availability charge in the code.
yeah, but is residential, I don't know if there's that or not.
I'm not sure.
I don't know residential, but
Yeah. Like I'm with
I'm
Matt
aware of
saying,
some
if
businesses
it's in
that
front
do.
of your house, are you gonna pay something, or are you mandatory hookup, more or less? Because you decided not doing mandatory hookup, you're gonna. Oh, he's asking, basically, if you don't wanna do the mandatory hookup, you're gonna pay a fee for sewage, because the line's there. You choose not to, so.
And if we don't go to mandatory hookup, we're gonna have a hard time getting grants. We won't get grants.
You won't get grants.
So that's something else we gotta look at.
Right. And by 2030, all septic tanks, there would probably be no permits, even if they're advanced, the treatment ones. They want to eliminate by 2030 septic tanks. So, you know, unless there's no sewer, you know, available in your area. But they're not gonna, if there's sewer available in your area, it's gonna have to be a mandatory hookup. The state's cracking down on it, so. Because right now they're making, if you want a grant, they're making the municipality enforce connections. Before they did. And then 2030, they're saying no more septic tanks if sewer's available.
Okay. So it's being done, and no one up here likes it, right, Pam? So it's being done now, and just none of us like it.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So if we don't increase our area, how are we going to clean these lakes and spots like Placid Lakes or Sun and Lakes, Lake Clay, the west side, with this $40 million we're supposed to be doing to clean the lakes, correct?
Correct. That's what, well,
Which is part of something we've got to finish that we've started, so.
right, it's part of the septic sewer, that eliminate septic. But if you know, with what you submitted with the grant, those lakes ain't in our area, we're not obligated to do that. But if we expand to them, then we're gonna be obligated, you know, eventually run, you know, mains down that way, so. So, as Jack said, you know, keep it the same now and possibility change in the future. When we get caught up, sure, we'll go to the county and say, okay, we want to expand it so we can finish cleaning this lake up or this one here. You know, we have everything basically done in our area. We've complied with the, you know, terms of the grant. We're ready to move on and go work on some other lakes.
Right.
Like I
As
said,
long as it can happen that quick. I just don't want to be bound by a line.
Right,
If there's a
right.
dying lake and the other side of it's not getting covered. 'Cause
Right, right.
We're already in, the Placid Lakes is already in our area, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but basically, if we go back to the county in the future, say, okay, we've done all our stuff. We want to take care of this. I don't think they'll have a problem saying, okay, we'll expand your area to that.
Right.
Because they're not in the utility business, you know, and there's no one around us, the nearest one's Seabrick. So, you know, that's not going to interfere with them. They're not coming this far south. So this is, what's their comp plan, 2050?
Yeah, that's what they're working on now, the
That's
2050,
Highland County's?
Highlands County 2050 comp plan, but we go,
Yep, so they're working on the 50, and they're probably going to revisit it again in a couple of years anyways. So they'll probably be asking us the same question.
but I think the questions are gonna be coming up now, they're doing theirs now, but
Right.
simultaneously, we need to be answering our
Right.
council these questions.
But like I said, they're going to revisit this in a few years and see where we're at then, and then, okay, yes, now we'd like to expand to pick up X Lake to improve their water quality. We've achieved our promises to the state with the new water treatment plant. We've got the septic solved down here. Now we'd like to expand and try to clean up other lakes. So, and like I said, I can't see Highlands County telling you no because there's no one else in the area. Sebring's 30 miles away, so they're not going to expand 30 miles just to pick up a lake.
All right, we can keep going through the questions. Do we need a break? Anybody need a break?
I think there's only two more questions.
Okay.
And I think we've,
Yep.
yep, you know, I talk about the annexation, the next one's how to fund future projects besides grants. You know, we've talked connections, that's, you know, unless you have any other ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Make developers pay.
Well, yeah, but we haven't had any developers come talking to us, except the mobile home park down on 70. I haven't heard nothing back from them. Lake Richard possibly may come back up, the development over there. But otherwise, nothing else. So basically, that would be connections, development connections. And that's the only ways I know of, besides grants, to produce revenue.
And, you know, anytime somebody pulls a building permit, you know, you charge something for,
Yes.
you know, the infrastructures.
Right, well,
that
if it's
they're gonna
new,
put.
they pay for development fees and everything else. Existing building, we don't charge them if it's already been paid, and, you know, unless they upgrade their water meter size. That's about the only other charges they'll get from us on the utility side, you know, because it's already been done once and the infrastructure's there. You know, so if they're just putting in a regular business, 5/8, 3/4 meter, it's already there, so. So unless you guys have any other ideas besides connections, that answers that question, basically.
And
Connections development, that's,
Yeah, because they're forcing us to do this, you know, you should be able to make current customers pay more for their water to help pay for the coming sewer that they're gonna
well,
be doing.
that will be, after this, we're gonna have Florida Water come in and give a discussion on a rate study. So, you know, so, like I said, you guys have this, they have a suggestion in there, but that's not set in stone or anything. You can look at that, it shows the financials, which way we go, there's graphs in there and everything else. That's why I sent it to you, so you have a good chance. Most of the reading's only in probably the first 20 pages. The rest is just assets and everything else, so. But this one here is so we can apply for grants, we'd be in compliance, so. But then the rate study will come in a couple weeks, you know, discussion. Because I'll have Florida Rural Water come in and explain their thinking on that and everything else to here and town commission, so.
And Florida Rural Water does a great job, so.
Oh, no, they're a great asset. I've been using them since I've been in Florida since 15, so. Very helpful. Especially small communities, you know.
Do they come up, Bert, with a cash flow analysis in their analysis as to,
Yes, that's all in there.
okay, so like what my question before is, as we keep adding customers, you know, how many customers we have to add?
Yeah, I don't know if they have that in, it's just based on what we have now. So, but, you know, with the rate study, they're suggesting a certain amount that should give us that buffer we're looking for. So, but then any other development, new connections will be a bonus. But I don't believe they have that number in there.
Are the water budget and the sewer budgets, I mean, I know they're billed separately. Are they completely separate? I mean, there's no commingling of funds?
No, they're separate funds, but they're under the utilities enterprise.
Right,
So,
but I mean,
they have to be separated.
if for some reason you had a big, a lot of extra money in the water side, you can't, okay.
No, they're separate funds.
All right, and how do we envision the future of LPRU?
Now, that question's for me. It's not for me.
Okay.
I just want to see what you guys' opinion or what you see in the future of the system. You know, that'll help me out. Like I was talking to Matt today, I want to maybe have you guys, I want you guys to get more involved. I'd like you guys to send me emails with questions or anything before, you know, our next meeting. Any concerns? Sorry about that. Concerns or just general questions, or come to the office and see me. I'd like to get a report with every one of you. With the sunshine rule, we can't sit there and talk like we are doing here, but we can meet individually, we can have emails, phone conversations, or stop in. And I'd love to hear your opinions and everything else, see what we can do. You know, like I said, this is a small system. I came from Long, they had money. And I repaired every lift station they had. I had it rehabbed because I had the money. I wanted to come out here and see what I could do to help to make this a successful utility. And it's impossible if you don't have the funds.
All right.
Right now, I'm trying to fix a few things, and it's like putting Band-Aids on stuff. People forget about the infrastructure when it's in the ground. As long as it's working, they don't think about it. But once your toilets ain't flushing, or the water's not running through your tap, you're getting a phone call and say, what's going on?
Yeah.
So, and I'd like to be proactive on this stuff. I don't like things to break. You know, it'll cost you 3 times as much if you don't do the maintenance on it and everything else. If you get up on it and you find something, you can fix a small part and save money down the road. And that's kind of the way I work, so.
Okay, I have a question, not picking on you because you're just here recently, you know, but looking at this domestic water report and the previous report for the wastewater, right? It seems like there was an awful lot of, I'll call it deferred maintenance, to be polite, right? In your opinion, was that caused by lack of funds or some other reason?
I'm sure it was a combination. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. It's working. You know, we'll move on to something that we know it's broken, we're gonna fix it. It's, with the maintenance part in a smaller community, you know, you have a small staff, you can only do so much. And like I said, they're not aware of it's broke, you know. With the larger utility, you have guys assigned just the lift stations. You have guys just assigned to manholes. You got guys assigned just to the water plants, you know. This way, these guys are wearing so many hats doing meter reading. They're not seeing everything as a whole. But
Right.
as they seen it, they report it, but it's just, you know, okay. For instance, the well over at Magnolia, I just found out it's been out of service for a while. I said, why? He goes, it costs too much. I said, no, let's get a company out here, let's get it pulled, take a much, see what it's gonna cost us. And then we'll find a way to fix that. You know, you just can't take something, take it offline, because that's a redundancy. You know, so if, you know, one of the wells go down, the main well there, you don't have the second one. So, you know, you gotta address the big things. It's like a rotten apple, you gotta take small bites, but you get rid of it. So it's just the infrastructure, it's older, so you just got to start, like each lift station, if we can rehab one a year. We got 17 of them. Might take 17 years, but they're getting rehab. You know, you don't have a lot of manholes here because they don't have a lot of gravity. Lift stations, panels, they get eaten up by the gases and stuff. You have to look at that because you're spending a ton of money on replacement parts. You eventually have to upgrade the panel, and they're about $40,000 a piece. So, you know, it's just, you know, you just got to take little bites and see if you can upgrade where you can. And you do the big stations first, the important ones, because the smaller stations you can throw a generator on and we can make them work. So it's just, it's prioritizing the big things that need to be fixed. And when the big things are fixed, you fix the small ones, but you still work on the big ones to make sure, maintain them and make sure they're still working good, so.
What about, I noticed some of the fire hydrants were out of service, or the isolation valves that feed them were not working properly. Doesn't either the utility or the fire department check those things once a year or something like that?
Well, on valves, it's supposed to be turned once a year.
Right.
Size of staff, it ain't gonna happen. So, as far as I know, all hydrants are in service at this time. The staff has repaired, we had 2 out, and I think we repaired the last one a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Now, the valves, couldn't tell you. You know, like I said, they're supposed to be operated once a year, you know. But like I said, being small, just having the staff to do it. Now, you might have some valves that I'm sure that need to be repaired, replaced, rebuilt, you know. It's just, you have to have the manpower and the money. Because if you go to rebuild one and you can't, then you have to cut it out and put a brand new one in. Right. Now you're putting people out of water, you know, it's difficult, but there's ways to do it. It's just, but you gotta have the money.
Right.
You gotta have the money to buy a valve in case that one fails.
Yeah.
So, It's difficult, but I'm sure once we get a plan and maybe we can get a preventative maintenance program going, you know, I think you have a good possibility of having a strong utility here. So it's just gonna take some organizing and, you know, putting our minds together to see what the best way is.
Right. Is the, since we don't have access to the domestic water, a map of the domestic, the water lines, you know, well, I mean, we saw it there, but I mean, I'd like to have a copy of it if I could.
Oh, no, we sent you the link to the diamond maps. You should be able to look at them all. Jack was on that list, wasn't he? Yes. You should have got an email with a link and a password to diamond maps.
Okay, I'll have to check that, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
And can you pull that up, Leanne, real quick? You have access. Firefox, okay, the Firefox, I think. There it is. You'll have this access to this GIS map. You have layers there, you can put the water on, water meters, hydrants, valves, and you'll be able to see, you know, sizes of mains and everything else.
Okay.
You have the read version, you can't make edits to it, but you can see everything we see. It should have been an email probably about, what, 3 weeks ago? If not, I can get Leanne to resend it to you.
Could you resend it?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
You know, like I said, you just open it up, and it's a web-based, and
Okay. And also for the water, this is wastewater, yeah.
Yep. See how she has the box on the side that says water, sewer?
Yeah.
You just click the box on which ones you want.
Okay.
The date was May 12th.
May 12th.
5/12, yep.
Thank you.
Came from customer service at Diamond something.
Say that again?
From customer service at Diamond something. Let me look.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Diamond
so we
Maps,
got you
I believe.
access, so you can see what's going on.
All right.
Me too.
You send it to you again?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll confirm my email address.
Yep.
I'm sure we got it right.
Yep. But like I said, you got your own password. They send it to you. In user name. So.
Thanks.
Any other questions from up here? Comments?
So what's your vision of just kind of my kind of idea is we just need to get organized and try to make this.
I just want us all to be on the same page when
Same
we go to
page,
our meeting
yes.
next week and kind of not
Like I
be
said, that was just
deer in the
throwing
headlights look.
so. But like I said, I'm going to want your guys' input on this. You know, just not just as an advisory board, but any ideas you have. So, you know, because like I said, it's you all live out here. I'm a new guy out this way, so you go, you know, with the in and outs and everything else. And if you see something or you think something we might be able to do, I'm open ears. You know, I've worked in just outside Detroit, a large community of about 100,000, and I've worked for the small community like this of 20, 23 or 100. So I've been in different systems. So it's just, and I've seen that, but you know the area. So whatever you can help me with or any ideas, that's what I'm open for. Because, you know, once everybody goes that, the light bulb goes off, and you go, yeah, let's go that direction. You know what I mean? You know, it's just, this is the area's been bad, you know, or this area can be improved, you know. So I'm just trying to get a game plan here. And if we're, like Matt said, we're all on the same page, that game plan gets a lot easier, so. So basically, I guess we're on the final note. We got the joint meeting coming up, and then we have our regular meeting. We're going to present the water asset to you. You were handed out the Highlands County 30-year just to let you review that. There's mentions water, wastewater all through it. There's maps in here. You could review it, and, you know, if you see anything, bring it to our attention. like I said, I'd probably review that before the planning committee, because that's kind of what they're gonna be discussing. And then that one will be us next one, so. I don't have anything else unless you guys have something.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Pam. And thank you, Brent.
Oh, thank you. And like I said, please, call me, come see me. Let's get together and see how we can get, pluck this chicken.
Right.
Pam Francis, you were talking about how do you get revenue besides the grants. So I go back to Lake Placid Camp and Conference Center, and whether it's actually up and running and sending to the town. I would figure out, and as we know, there's been a lot of delays, and there's still not a water line, there's still not all these things. How much revenue are you missing out on every day the system is not up and running? And you don't have to answer that
No,
now. I'm just like,
it is
as
up and running, but they still have to connect it, so.
So like, what can you do to bring in revenue to utilities? So, and I'm not trying to bring up the past, or this delay or that delay, but moving forward as these things occur, to have tighter controls, you have an agreement, you have a contract, things, anyway, I would know how much, if this was a business run efficiently and professionally, every day that something's not hooked up and sending to the town's wastewater treatment plant, you're missing $5, you're missing $1,000, I have no idea, but know that. And then what can you do to get that up and running and connected? And so that's one part of it. Second part is that House Bill 1379, which brought about all this advanced wastewater treatment plants or septic tanks. Highlands County does not have a utilities department. They have abdicated all their responsibilities. I go to the county commission meetings, I read the packet. Every year they have to do an annual packet to the DEP of the state. What are you doing to come into compliance with House Bill 1379 as a county? 10 pages of, we don't have a utilities department, therefore we have no responsibilities. Next question, we don't have a utilities department, we don't have any responsibilities. The county has abdicated that to the different municipalities. The town of Lake Placid has taken on this heavy load. They're not in the town limits. So, having said that, why is Lake Placid, Sebring, Avon Park not going into the county? Understand you don't have a utilities department. This is like an unfunded mandate. So you don't have a utilities department, we want $1 million a year to come into compliance with the Okeechobee BMAP. That's what, in Hardy County, there's different areas in the state, they don't have to comply with House Bill 1379 because they're not in a BMAP. We unfortunately fall in Okeechobee BMAP. So there are stricter regulations that fall upon us in other areas in the state. Not Indian Rivers, Tuffers, around the Springs. But so why is the county getting off scot-free? So what can you do to bring in revenue? That would have to be you, LPA, advocating to the town council to pass a resolution, to go to the county, give us our money. We are taxpayers in the unincorporated, I live in unincorporated Highlands County, Greater Lake Placid area, but I'm sending my taxes to the county. Why aren't they then funneling? They do it with recreation. The town gets $125,000 for recreation per year, or has been, and Sebring gets it, Avon Park. So why aren't they giving y'all a portion of the tax revenue for utilities or income and compliance?
Taxes doesn't fund utilities, enterprise fund. So
I understand, but not utilities, but with the House Bill 1379. I get the report, this is reports that the county, they do studies. This is from February 2024. On-site sewage treatment and disposal system. This was on the county commissioner's agenda. They do a lot of reports. I don't think y'all get those reports. They have to be in compliance with DEP on certain things. I'm just saying, they need to do a better job of informing y'all, helping y'all apply for grants. When I was on the Swift Mud Governing Board, we did cost share projects, Lake McCoy, Lake June. That's the Lake June, the BMP project that's currently involved with the floating islands, the nutrient removal islands, and Catfish Creek. The county is supposed to be advocating to get not just your normal state and federal grants that this utility department lives or dies on, but other grants. There are other agencies that you could be tapping into. I don't think y'all do because you don't have the staff, the manpower to. The county has Dawn Ritter. She's the natural resource department head. She should be the one, or in my opinion, there are people at the county office that should be helping Lake Placid be in compliance. But those doors are never open because we don't ask. We don't get our fair share per se, in my opinion, because we don't go to the county and say, this is I was going to say demands, but that's not nice. This is a list that we need help with, or these are our wants or desires. We have to start working collectively and advocating for, it is the greater Lake Placid area because you're so small. You only have the 2,600 town residents. Either you grow by annexation, and I wouldn't be so afraid of the road system. Sebring Avon Park, there was one Tuesday, Avon Park's taking on more roads. They're asking the county, what are your top 10 list of the roads you want us to start maintaining? Why is Avon Park over 10,000 residents? Sun and Lakes North, 14,000. Spring Lakes, over 7,000 residents and growing. They have utilities department, they have wastewater treatment plants, and they're actively pursuing not just old or new development, they're pursuing customers. So y'all are going to be I know I've talked to this a lot, you're going to be sitting on 1 million gallons a day wastewater treatment plant. Then, and I know I've talked more than I normally do at these meetings, you're going to be sitting on that plant, which goes back to your discussion and your points. Why isn't new development coming inside of the Lake Placid Regional Plan area? Why isn't somebody coming in and requesting 200,000 gallons a day or so-and-so gallons a day? What prohibits growth within the Lake Placid Regional Plan? That's not the topic for today, but that's a part of, I think you're going to be struggling for years to come, decades to come, because new development isn't going to come within this Lake Placid Regional Plan, not at a pace I think the Utilities Department needs to cash flow. So I think you could have one of these meetings every week and have the open forum and discussion, and I think it's needed. You're at a critical time, not just this commission, but the town of Lake Placid, as it relates to the Highlands County. Impact fees, that study will be done in 8 months. I mean, I could go on and on. The rest of the world is moving on, even in Highlands County. Do you want to be a part of that? And if so, how will you address that? And I guess that's about it. Y'all know I can talk, but anyway, sorry.
Thank you. So a question, conference center, if the city's done everything it's supposed to do and we're ready to go, are they getting billed their service fee, connection fee?
I have to check on that.
It's available, you know what I mean?
It's online.
Right.
But their flows to that lift station, they have to connect their buildings to.
Right.
So
that's on them though, right?
Right, so I'm not sure, they've sent me plans of what they were planning on doing.
Right.
But I don't know if they've done that yet.
Right.
They had a consent order from the state that they had to.
Right.
And, according to the urgent emails that they're ready to hook up, but I have to check and see if they're we have to, since they don't have water, we're gonna have to base their flows, on their flows, billing, so I have to check on that.
Right.
But like I said, right now, I doubt it's a minimum flow because I don't think they've connected anything.
Right, because there's no urgency, I'm
Right.
saying. I would probably start sending them a bill, but
Right,
just me.
but no, that's
Any other business,
because we're waiting on the bulk water agreement with them so we can get the water out there and that's how they'll be billed after that.
Right.
But right now, we just go on the flows on that lift station because they're the only one on the lift station. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
No?
Anything else from the public, ladies? Good. All right, so our next meeting is
two meetings. June 2nd is your LPA LUPRAC joint meeting at 5:30. Just to take note, there'll be a short little meeting, it'll be a Board of Adjustment, they have a hearing. It should go pretty quick. And then your joint one will start immediately after that.
Okay.
So that's June 3rd, right?
That's June 2nd at 5:30. June 3rd is your regular
Right.
LUPRAC meeting.
1:30.
It's a Monday, right?
So Monday is the LPA joint, and Tuesday is your regular LUPRAC.
Gotcha. Okay,
At 1:30.
Yep.
right. Okay. Well, thank everybody for coming. If you have questions, please email them to Bert, get him involved.
Yep.
Take
And
him to
like I
lunch.
said, any question, it just gives me a window into seeing what's going on, what you're thinking. And like I said, if we can have the communication, instead of having our meeting here, okay, I'm reading you a director's report that you could read yourself, it's kind of like wasting time to me. I'd rather have it more productive and, and see what we can come up with. I want you guys involved, I'm not sure how it was done in the past, like I said, give you a recommendation, you say yes or no. I'd like to see your opinions on it before we even bring it to you, you know what I
Right.
mean? So, use your experience with my experience, we might come up with something. So,
We need a big spinning wheel so we can,
all right.
and then talk about something.
Is it connected to a
something
dunk tank? You can dunk me.
That's
I
what it
don't
feels
care.
like up here.
I can fall off stage for you. I don't care. We just want to make this work, so.
How's the wastewater treatment plant going?
It's still on schedule, so.
Okay. We'll keep
You know-
those cards and letters coming.
Pardon me?
Keep those cards and letters coming.
Yep.
So, yep.
Yep, like I said, they're working, on the trains, the carousels, they're putting duck banks in, we're waiting on the building, but that time frame shortened up, so we should have that June or July. So we're back to our January finish time, so, at this point, so it's just, it'd be nice to get that one done, and get it online, and what would be real nice is getting Tomoka offline, so get them all on one plan. That way we can have staff at one place, and they don't
Great.
have to travel, and, we just can stay there and work on that one, so.
Yep.
And I appreciate you guys making time for this little round table thing. I know you guys are busy.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned, 10:51.